facility, and you took me out to where you had old cars, and you had this room really impressed me. You called it the Duke Out with the Lord room.
The prayer room.
The prayer room, where there's a bed in there, there's whatever, there's no TV because it's between them and God. So tell me a little bit about that room. I want you to tell me where that came from.
So the prayer room, that is a place for the men and women. It was initially designed just for the men to be able to get away and just pray things out. There may be situations where I may send a guy there. There's an issue going on that I see, and I may send him there, or he may be at a crossroads and need to pray that out. And we're aware of the wrestling match that sometimes occurs between God and us. And so that's just a place where they can go. There's different study materials, different worship materials. They can literally spend the night in there and just wrestle it out with God.
Yeah, you're telling me that I saw a chess table, a chess game sitting there, because you said sometimes with men it's easier to do stuff instead of sitting there just talking to each other. How does that work?
With men, I think we want to do things with our hands as we're discussing those issues. And so there's a dartboard as well that we can throw darts, and you know, we're not really concentrating on the chess or the darts.
Right.
We're just doing something with our hands to
kind of keep things going and smooth. Wow, that's a great thing. I know that women can just talk. You know, we can just talk. Yeah. So I want to read a couple scriptures for everybody before we get started, because I really want him to tell his story. He's got a great story. Acts 2:26 says, "Therefore did my heart rejoice, and my tongue was glad. Moreover, also my flesh shall rest in hope." You know, a lot of times it's a spiritual hope, but there's also a hope where our flesh can find rest. And I think that's what happens in your ministry, because there's a lot of ministries that you're involved in. You even support other ministries. And the thrift store that I came into was just the storefront, basically, you might say, that where it supports these other ministries. But before we get into that, I want you to tell me a little bit about your life. And I know that you said you've been in and out of institutions yourself, so kind of start with that.
Sure. I've actually been to prison 13 times. That was 4 terms and violated my parole 9 different times. So I've been back to a state facility 13 times. So you might say that 13 is my lucky number.
Okay. And somebody else's too. Everybody else that you're helping, it's their lucky number.
That could be.
Yeah.
I found myself in mischief at a very young age. And from there, my mom had picked me up from different stores, from shoplifting, and it just got worse. Stole my first car when I was 13, and so I think I was born with like an extra dose of sin nature that just kind of happened. Kind of cutting to the last time, I found myself on my way to prison for the 13th time. Everything revolving around drugs and that lifestyle, and I came to a point where I just didn't want to live like I was living anymore, and so I thought I'd try this religion thing, because people that were going to church on Sundays weren't going to prison on Mondays. That was my thinking at the time. And so what I got was a whole lot more than religion. I got a relationship with Jesus, and that's what's kept me out all these years. The last time was in 2002 that I was incarcerated, and when I gave my life over to Him, things changed. Things didn't automatically get real easy for me. I still had to walk through some stuff, but that was the start for me.
So then, were you saved in prison?
In jail.
In jail.
Okay.
On
my way at the Grant County Jail in Kentucky.
Okay.
Well, let me back up a little bit. I went to this first Sunday service, and I really didn't care too much for what they had to say. I don't remember. It just didn't resonate. The next Sunday, I went to another service, a different service, and I got jumped by an uncle and a nephew. I picked up this scar right here, so I didn't particularly care for that service too much.
Okay.
And then on a Wednesday night, these old country bumpkins came in, and they told me about this Jesus that died on a cross for me. And I did not understand that. I did not understand why someone would die for me after I was selling my garbage to whoever. I was taken from whoever I could, and it was just all about me, and I didn't understand that. But I went back. The next Wednesday, the next time they came, and I started my relationship with Jesus then.
Wow. So you have impacted a lot of people since then, right? A lot of people in your life, because your story gives hope.
You know, you talked about hope when you were opening up, and just what kept echoing in my head is, you know, you talked about two different kinds of hope, and to have no hope is a terrible thing.
Yeah.
When you have no hope, and I'm not a teacher, I'm not a preacher when I go back into the prisons, but that's my gifting, is to encourage others, mostly with my testimony of, look what he's done for me. He's no respecter as a person.
Yeah.
He'll do the same for you as he's done for me, vice versa. So.
Yeah, and so we know that the scriptures tells us in Romans 5:4 that the patience experience hope. So James talks about tribulation works in us patience. Without patience, we can't have any hope. So the experience in life produced patience. Had to, because it causes us not, you know, if we don't have patience, we're going to be a mess.
Sure.
So, so you finally have got the hope in your life, and now you. Actually, you were talking about Kentucky a little while ago before we were on camera here, that you're going tomorrow? You're leaving tomorrow?
Flying out first thing in the morning.
Going to Kentucky to see
my mentor, the guy that actually picked me up from prison.
Okay.
And brought me out. So we're excited about going.
And so you went to prison last night, and did you talk?
So I go into our local juvenile hall in El Dorado County. I go into our El Dorado County jail. And I go into Mule Creek State Prison over here in Ione, just kind of down the street from here.
And so what do you do when you go in there?
Bring them the good news of Jesus.
So it's like a church service?
It is a church service working in towards reentry. And so that's my heart, is to help others reenter. I know how difficult it is reentering 13 times.
Yeah.
And so, you know, I asked the question last night, how many of you guys are here for the first time at the prison? And we had 10 in the class this time, and like 2 hands went up. How many is their second time? A couple more. Third time, fourth time, fifth time, sixth time. One guy's 8th time. And so that guy that for the 8th time obviously knows how hard it is to reenter. And so that's kind of the focus, is reentry.
Well, we talked before when I went and visited and you gave me a tour, you were telling me how they when they leave institution, they get a little bit of money. Tell me how that works, because you were telling me this goes to here, this goes to there, and pretty soon they're down to zero.
Sure. Each state's different. Kentucky, they give you nothing when you leave.
Okay.
Our blessed state, California, they give you $200, and I don't know the last time that there was a cost increase. There was an increase, and so they've been given $200 for a long time. So somebody leaves.
Okay, now, but let's go back for a second. You had even said that they wear paper clothes. They don't even leave. They leave.
Some.
Okay.
So,
okay.
Yeah. There's some places that use it, and each institution is a little bit different. When somebody leaves an institution, they give them $200 and they're on their way.
Okay.
They drop them off at the bus depot at the Greyhound, and let's say they're leaving mid-state and coming right here to Jackson, and so they buy their ticket. Let's say it's $80 or $90. They get on the bus. They stop in Fresno and get a Happy Meal at McDonald's, their first big meal. They travel on and get to Modesto, have another little layover, and there's a Walmart maybe across the street, and they jump in there, get a pair of maybe $20 tennis shoes and an $8 shirt, because sometimes they're released in whatever clothes that they're, and they don't want to stick out. You don't want to stick out in those prison clothes. And so by the time they get here to Jackson, maybe they have $40 left in their pocket. They're in a crisis. They're in a crisis situation.
Yes.
And that crisis is food, shelter, and clothing. And they may have truly want to do better. They may truly have found Jesus on the yard. But due to that crisis, food, shelter, and clothing, they're going to go back to what they know.
What they know. And so what do you do then with your reentry? How do you get a hold of these individuals? How do they know about you?
Well, we are... let me kind of back up just a little bit and say that we're not a halfway house. We're not a flop house. We're a reentry discipleship ministry. And so those that truly want change and have found freedom in Christ, that's kind of the first step of who we are. From there, I mainly just my area is what I'm kind of focusing in on. So those that are prisons from down south, they may not know about it. So where I go into Mule Creek, and I was going into Old Folsom, and so I was able to tell them kind of who we are, and I kind of handpick who we come, because I'm very choosy about who comes. So.
Yeah, because it's not a flop house. You're actually choosing people who are really serious about changing their life.
Sure, yes.
I remember we were talking a little bit about, you were saying, thinking about maybe having computer classes and, giving some skills. And we were in the garage, you had some old trucks, you go, I don't know much about this, but I can tell them how to use a wrench, or I know how to, I try to give them a little bit of something they can go in and apply for a job and actually have a chance, because they know a little bit about something. They might not know everything, but they can actually find a job that way. Have you experienced where some have found jobs?
Sure. First, let me just say that Christ is our first.
Hold on one second. We'll be right back. After this message, we'll be right back with Randy Haskins.